Now we start with Charles Dickens, the greatest Victorian novelist. And he's originally named Charles John Humphrey Dickens. John Humphrey. Charles John Humphrey Dickens. And he is popularly known as Charles Dickens, one of the prominent Victorian novelists, one of the greatest novelists of the world. And the characters of Charles Dickens enjoy lasting fame, and they are still remembered. The characters are still remembered. Characters like David Copperfield, Oliver Twist, and Nicholas Nickleby, and the minor characters like Pigotty, and there are many minor characters like Barkis are all very famous. And they all enjoy lasting fame. Still they are famous characters. Normally UGC is interested in asking questions about the characters and in which novel these characters are found. Most often the UGC question will be based on the characters and the titles of the novels. And sometimes there may be chronology questions also, the year of the publication of novels. Charles Dickens was actually born in Portsmouth, and his father was a poorly paid naval clerk, and he was also a drunkard. And the family always underwent a lot of troubles and difficulties. So stayed in poverty, and his father borrowed heavily and was put in the debtors' prison in the Marshalsea. And after all, the family shifted to Marshalsea. At the time, the family was also permitted to stay with the prisoner, and the family shifted to Marshalsea prison. And Dickens joined with his aunt, Mrs. Roylance. And at the age of 12, Dickens joined a factory as a laborer, a worker, only at the age of 12. And he experienced in his life the difficulties of child labor. And Dickens got only limited formal education. He actually learned the 3 R's. Reading, writing, and arithmetic are referred to as 3 R's from the lap of his mother. And at the age of 12, he started working in a factory. And so later he was sent to study law for 2 years and joined a legal office and started dealing a legal column in a magazine. There was a magazine called Doctor's Commons, and Dickens dealt the legal column in the magazine. And he also showed some extracurricular abilities, like mimicking and repeating dialogues he heard from the theatres. He used to visit the theatres to watch plays and repeated the long dialogues to his friends. And Dickens started his career as a reporter to a magazine. And then he turned to become a parliamentary reporter to another magazine. Then joined with the Morning Chronicle, one of the important newspapers there. And he worked there as a reporter for the street incidents. And there was also a painter, an artist painting the pictures, drawing the pictures, and Dickens supplied the stories. And by the time Dickens adopted a pen name also, Bose. And Bose is actually the name of his brother. His brother was called Moses. And he was fondly called Boses. And perhaps this may be the reason why Dickens adopted the pen name Bose. And while working in the evening daily of the Morning Chronicle, and the Morning Chronicle actually published an evening daily also, Dickens dealt a column called the Street Sketches. And after all, there was a painter, a portrait painter producing the pictures, and Dickens supplied the stories. And fortunately, the artist was Hablot K. Brown. In the beginning, he worked under another artist named Seymour, who was a drunkard, who committed suicide. And after that, there came another painter named Hablot K. Brown, and Dickens formed a lasting friendship with him, and he became the illustrator for all the novels of Dickens, except his novel, Our Mutual Friend. I told you, Hamlet K. Brown has been the choreographer and artist for Dickens for all his novels, and the novels of Dickens actually carried a number of pictures. And one of the very attractive things about the novel seemed to be the pictures included in the novels. And Hamlet K. Brown painted the pictures. And Dickens and Hamlet Brown developed a long-lasting friendship. And Hamlet Brown adopted a pen name, a pseudonym called Fizz, and the combination of Fizz and Bose. Dickens was Bose and Hamlet Brown was Fizz. And the novel Pickwick Papers was started by Charles Dickens. Dickens started Pickwick Papers in 1836. So the novel is also called the posthumous papers of the Pickwick Club. There is a club also formed by the middle-aged interesting person Pickwick. And there are the other members like Tracy Tupman, a ladies' man. Augustus Snodgrass, a poet who never wrote a poem. And Nathaniel Winkle, another interesting man, who claimed that he was a sportsman, but actually he was not an expert in sports, not at all a sportsman. And these were the other three members, Tracy Tupman, Augustus Snodgrass, and Nathaniel Winkle. With Pickwick and the servant of Pickwick called Sam Weller. And with the entry of Sam Weller in the 4th episode of the novel, actually it is in the 10th chapter of Pickwick Papers, Sam Weller enters. Very interesting servant attached with Pickwick. And the novel became very popular. So the popularity increased with the entry of Sam Weller. Sam Weller seemed to be a highly comic character. And the club enjoyed great popularity. And the novel also became very popular. It was produced by Dickens in 1836. The first novel from Dickens is Pickwick Papers, 1836. And in the next year, he produced his next famous novel, the best known novel, Oliver Twist, in 1837. And in the following year, say in 1838, he came out with another novel, Nicholas Nickleby. 1836, Pickwick Papers. 1837, Oliver Twist. And 1838, Nicholas Nickleby. And it is at the time Dickens started writing another novel called Master Humphreys' Clock. It was in 1839. Dickens started writing Master Humphreys' Clock. So a novel closely associated with his first novel, Pickwick Papers. This novel also describes the experiences and adventures of the members in the club. Master Humphreys' Clock is also the name of a club. And there are members like Master Humphrey, a senior man, very interesting person, Master Humphrey. And he has got his friends. He has got his friends like Jack Redburn. Redburn seems to be one of the important members there because after Master Humphrey, he becomes the president. When Master Humphrey leaves the place, Jack Redburn becomes the president. Jack Redburn was a deaf man. He could not hear well. And there was a merchant, a retired merchant named Owen Miles. Jack Redburn, a deaf gentleman, and a retired merchant named Owen Miles, and Mr. Pickwick, Master Humphrey, and Sam Weller are the members of this club. And the club is called Master Humphrey's Clock, C-L-O-C-K, clock. And why it is called clock? Because there is a special practice among the people, among the club members. There has been a big cure-cased, strangely covered clock. So the adventures of the members will be written and put in the clock. And one paper will be taken in the evening for reading. one paper will be taken out for reading. And this practice was followed by the members in the Master Humphreys clock. And the club is called Master Humphreys clock. And it is also the name of a magazine. Master Humphreys clock was published in a magazine called Master Humphreys clock. And the interesting experiences of the club members, like Jack Redburn, the club members are Jack Redburn, Owen Miles, Master Humphrey, Pickwick, and his servant Sam Weller. And Sam Weller has got his own club, and it is called Weller's Watch. The main club is called Master Humphreys Clock, and the secondary club is called Weller's Watch, WATCH, and it's a kitchen club. And it is presided by Sam Weller, the servant. And he has got his people there, a barber, a washerwoman, a milkmaid, and a servant. And these people constitute the club called the Weller's Watch, WATCH, Master Humphreys Clock and Weller's Watch. That we should have to remember the members of these clubs. And Pickwick Club is the first club formed by Pickwick. And it is also the name of a novel. It's also the name of a novel. And the members are Pickwick. He is a Samuel Pickwick. He is Samuel Pickwick Esquire, he is called. So a gentleman. And he has got his friends like Tracy Tupman, Augustus Snodgrass, and Nathaniel Winkle. And these are the four members, plus the servant Sam Weller. And the adventures and misadventures of the club members are described in the Pickwick Papers. So each page of the novel seems to be highly interesting. So that we are not supposed to put down the book if we start reading Pickwick Papers. If we start to read Pickwick Papers, we will never drop the book on the table. At a single sitting, we will finish the novel. Such an interesting novel is Pickwick Papers. And it is followed by Oliver Twist in 1837, Nicholas Nickleby in 1838, and again Dickens became interested in producing another club. And this club is called Master Humphreys Club, and it was produced in 1839. And a magazine was also started by Dickens and his friends under the name Master Humphreys Clock. And the adventures and misadventures of the club members are produced in this magazine. And this magazine also brought out another novel that is called The Curiosity Shop. So this novel is followed by The Old Curiosity Shop. And UGC used to ask questions also from this novel. And the central character of this novel is a young girl, only 14 years old, named Nell Trent. UGC once asked the question. So, Nell Trent is a character in which novel? She is character in The Old Curiosity Shop, and she sits in a curiosity shop selling knickknacks and petty articles, odds and ends. And her grandfather is the owner of the shop. This is a small shop, but the grandfather used to spend money for gambling and drinking. And he also borrowed money from a moneylender, a cruel and cunning moneylender named Daniel Culp. And you see once asked the question of Daniel Culp, the villain in the novel, Daniel Culp. So he lent money to the old grandfather of Nell Trent. And after all, he grabbed the shop. He captured the shop and drove the grandfather and the granddaughter out from the shop. And it was at the time Nell came into friendship with a boy named Kit. Nell came into friendship with a boy named Kit. He is also of the same age. And he also lost his job, and he went in search of some job to make money and to support the family of Nell Trent. But anyhow, unfortunately, Nell Trent became dead through exhaustion. So through suffering and lack of food, undergoing starvation, so Nell Trent became dead. And on seeing the death of Nell Trent, the old grandfather also becomes dead. And when Kit comes with money, there is no one. By the time these two people became dead, and it became a very captivating novel. attracted the attention of great people like Queen Victoria. And Queen Victoria, then the monarch, so maintained that. She said that it was a very interesting novel. Old Curiosity Shop seemed to be a very interesting novel. She recommended the novel to her friends. Queen Victoria recommended this novel to her friends and complimented Charles Dickens for the novel. And in the following year, say in 1841, he produced another novel, and it is a historic novel. The first history novel written by Charles Dickens. Dickens has got two history novels. One is Burnaby Rudge and the other is A Tale of Two Cities. And Burnaby Rudge was produced in 1841 based on the golden rights of the 1780s. It is called the golden rights of the golden rights, RIOTS, struggles of the 1780s. So the Catholics were defeated by the Protestants during the golden rights, and the central character is a young boy named Burnaby Rudge. And he is a special kind of boy. He has got a talking raven sitting on his shoulder all the time. And the raven is called Grip, G-R-I-P, Grip. UGC once asked the name of the raven. And this raven actually influenced Edgar Allan Poe in writing his poem Raven. Raven is a very popular poem written by the American poet Edgar Allan Poe. And Poe actually was influenced by the raven introduced in the novel Burnaby Rudge. And in Poe's raven also, the raven is able to speak, but it speaks only one word, nevermore. But in Burnaby Rudge, the raven named Grip talks eloquently with Burnaby. Whenever Burnaby asks questions, the raven gives answers, and the people become highly interested on finding Burnaby, a young boy, communicating with a raven. And after all, Burnaby was given a house and facilities. He and his mother, they were protected by the people in the golden rights. And this is the first historic novel written by Charles Dickens, and this is a least read novel and least important and popular novel. Not at all a very popular novel. Burnaby Rudge was produced in 1841. And these three novels, Master Humphreys' Clock, Old Curiosity Shop, and Burnaby Rudge, are considered as a trilogy written by Charles Dickens. The trilogy is a collection of three novels. The trilogy is constituted with three novels. There are three novels in the trilogy: Master Humphreys' Clock, Old Curiosity Shop, and Burnaby Rudge. Humphreys' Clock was produced in 1839, and the Old Curiosity Shop was also produced in 1839 and 1840, and Burnaby Rudge was produced in 1841. And when we get into the chronology of Charles Dickens, we find Charles Dickens coming out with his first novel, Pickwick Papers, in 1836. In the second year, he came out with his next important novel, Oliver Twist. And Oliver Twist is actually subtitled The Parish Boy's Progress. Actually, it speaks about the progress of an orphan named Oliver Twist. He was born in a workhouse, and his parentage was not known. Suffered a lot of difficulties in the workhouse. When he wanted to get more food, so he was sent out from the workhouse to work as an apprentice to an undertaker. And he joins an undertaker working as an apprentice, and came into quarrel with another apprentice there. Another apprentice named Calpol. So he came to quarrel with Oliver, and after all, Oliver fought with him and escaped from the house of the undertaker and walked towards London. And spending long time, he walked to London to look for a job and to look for some lodging. And he had no one to support him. He was all alone, had no money also with him, and has been so walking all the way, eating no food and no drink. And on the way, he met a boy of his age named Dodger. and Dodger offered him food and drink. And after all, he offered him a job also. Dodger brought him to London and put him under the service of a criminal named Fagin, one-eyed cruel man. And he was the head of pickpockets and robbers. He was a criminal leader, a gang leader, Fagin. And he has got a group of boys also working under him, doing pickpocketing. And Oliver Twist was also taught in the line, but Oliver was not interested in turning to become a pickpocket. And while picking the pocket of a gentleman named Mr. Brownlow, Oliver was caught. Actually, Oliver didn't pick the pocket of Mr. Brownlow. The pocket was picked by, the purse was picked by the other boys, and the boys escaped from there, and Oliver was caught. And he was taken by Brownlow, and Brownlow understood the nature of the boy. And also Brownlow felt interested in the boy because one of the pictures in his house looked almost like Oliver. And he felt some connection between the picture and Oliver. Therefore, he protected Oliver, and after all, he sent Oliver to the town for some exchange of books. And as he was in the town, as Oliver was in the town with the books on his sketch, he was identified by the gang members, Nancy and Bill Sykes. Nancy is a lady attached with Fagin, and she started as a prostitute, and now she has been put under Fagin as a pickpocket and thief. And she is in love with Bill Sykes. Bill Sykes is next in importance in the club. So next in importance in the criminal club, in the criminal group, Bill Sykes, a tall, strong man. So he was in love with Nancy, and these people noticed the Oliver walking with the books, and Oliver was caught by them. The books were left there, and he was taken back to Fagin, and so he was tortured by Fagin and the others, and he was put in a room under arrest, and he was not given food. And Bill Sykes actually wanted the service of Oliver because Oliver was a small boy. A small boy can be used by the burglars to open the doors and putting them through the window, and Oliver could be put easily through the window, and he could open the doors for the burglars. And while doing the work, while assisting Bill Sykes, he was caught by the people there, and it turned actually the life of Oliver Twist. The life of Oliver Twist becomes turned when he was fired at his arm. He was shot at his arm. And the ladies identified him and nursed him back to normal health.